Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on making decisions in JavaScript. In this video, we'll learn how to control the flow of our programs using conditional statements. This will allow our programs to execute different blocks of code based on certain conditions. Let's start with the basic if statement. The if statement is the most basic conditional statement in JavaScript. It allows us to execute a block of code only if a certain condition is true. Let's write a program that checks if a number is positive or negative. Begin with a basic HTML document. Incorporate a script tag to include JavaScript. First, define a variable to store the number that entered by the user. Prompt the user to enter a number using the prompt function. Next, we have an if statement that checks whether the value stored in variable num is greater than 0. If the condition is true, then the code inside the if block will execute. Inside the if block, we use the document.write function to output the message positive number to the document. To avoid printing on the same line, include a br tag. After the if statement, we have a document.write statement outside of any conditional block, which prints negative number. Save and run the program. If we enter a negative number, it will print a negative number. So, if we enter a number greater than 0, we will get an output like this. Here, print positive number will execute only if the number is E0. Print negative number will be executed always. Now let's include the else statement in this program. The else statement provides an alternative block of code to execute if the condition inside the if statement is false. If the condition is false, indicating that the number entered by the user is not greater than 0, then the code inside the else block will execute. Therefore, place the document.write negative number inside the else block to ensure it executes in such cases. Save and run the program. If the num is not greater than 0, the code inside the else block is executed, which writes negative number. Moving next, sometimes we have to make decisions inside other decisions. That's when nested if statements are handy. A nested if statement is an if statement that contains another if statement inside of it. This allows us to make more complex decisions based on multiple conditions. Let's do a program. Let's start by initializing variables to hold the username and password, prompting the user to input these credentials, which will serve as the login details for our program. Now, we have the main if statement which checks if the entered username matches admin. Inside this, there's a nested if statement to validate if the password matches admin. If both conditions are true, which means username is admin and password is admin, then an alert message you are logged in as admin will be displayed. If the password is incorrect, we'll inform the user accordingly. Add an alert under the else statement to display incorrect password. Lastly, if the username is incorrect, we'll notify the user. Insert an alert under the else statement to show incorrect username. Now, we have the outer if statement which checks if the entered username matches admin. Within this, there's a nested if statement to validate if the password matches admin. If both conditions are true, an alert message you are logged in as admin will be displayed. However, if the password is incorrect, the else block within the outer if statement will execute, printing wrong password. Additionally, if the username itself is incorrect, the else block under the outer if statement will print wrong username. Now, let's run this code and see what happens. As expected, the code successfully checks the credentials and prints the appropriate message based on the username and password entered. That's it. Let's move on to the else if statement. This is another way to handle multiple conditions, especially when you have more than two possibilities. The else if statement allows to check multiple conditions and execute a particular block of code. Else if statement is optional and can have multiple else if in an if-else block. Let's do a program. First, we get some user input with number equals prompt, enter a number. This prompts the user to enter a number and stores it as a decimal number in the number variable. This if statement checks if the number is greater than 0. If it is, number is positive will be printed. Now comes the else if statement. It allows us to specify another condition to check if the if statement was false. Here, we're checking if the number is less than 0. If it is, number is negative will be printed. And finally, the else block. This block will only execute if neither the if statement nor the else if statement is true, which means the number is equal to 0. Here, we print number is neutral. Let's run the code and see how it handles different number inputs. As you can see, the code now correctly identifies and prints the appropriate message based on whether the number entered is positive, 0, or negative. The else if statement gives us more flexibility in handling multiple conditions. That's it. Thank you.